and welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining. We're also live streaming on Facebook for the first time ever through Zoom, so that's very exciting. My name's Grace Atkinson and I'm the Executive Director of Jusoor. We decided to host this webinar to share our story, which started in March this year when the COVID-19 pandemic hit Lebanon and the whole country went into lockdown. All of the schools and education centres were closed, which I'm sure is a familiar story to many, if not all of the participants here today. But what's different about our story is the children, who are Syrian children whose families have fled from a war zone, many of whom have missed years of education. And here at Jusoor, we're very worried about these children becoming a lost generation. But don't worry, this is also an inspirational story where our team in Lebanon rapidly pivoted our education programs online with the aim that no child was left behind during the pandemic. Today we're going to discuss how we delivered education virtually, some of the challenges that we faced, the opportunities which arose, and what's next for our programs. Before we dive in, I'd like to step back to offer you some context. Jusoor's mission is to invest in Syrian children and youth for a brighter tomorrow. We deliver programs across 4 main areas: scholarships, career development, entrepreneurships, and refugee education, which we're going to take a deeper dive into today. In order to do that, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce our speakers. Our moderator is Dr. Elizabeth Adelman. Elizabeth is a lecturer at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, an education researcher at the International Rescue Committee, and a longtime friend of Jusoor. Our panelists are Suha Tutunji, the academic director of the Jusoor's Refugee Education Program, MacDonald, Jusoor's Psychosocial Support Counselor, and Randa Alkhous, one of Jusoor's teachers in the Jebjaneen Center. Thank you to each of you for joining, and it's truly wonderful to have you here. Elizabeth, as I pass the floor to you, maybe you could start by telling us a little bit about your work, how you came to find Jusoor and become kind of a great friend to Jusoor. And it would also be wonderful if you could introduce us into the context of the education system globally during the pandemic.
Great, thank you so much, Grace, for the warm introduction and for starting us off on what I know will be a very interesting conversation. And thank you to the entire team at Jusoor for inviting me here. It's a real honor to join this group of extremely experienced individuals, Suha, Michelle, and Randa, who are real experts in their fields and whose experience provides great insight and understanding for us all. So just to give you a really brief background about myself and my connection to Jusoor, as Grace mentioned, I'm currently a lecturer at the Graduate School of Education at Harvard. While I work broadly across the field of education and emergencies, my passion and my focus is really on the work of teachers. I believe, and I think most of us would agree, that teachers are the cornerstone to any education programming. But I find this to be particularly true for schooling provided in settings of conflict and displacement, where teachers play a pivotal role in reestablishing a sense of normalcy for students and hope for the future. At Harvard, with my colleagues Dr. Sarah Dryden-Peterson and Dr. Vidor Chopra, I helped co-found REACH, which is an initiative dedicated to promoting research, education, and action for refugees in the world. And in my other role as an education researcher at IRC, I work on a broad number of projects across many different settings and topics, but not surprisingly, much of my work right now is really focused on how to continue educational programming for students whose schooling has been impacted by COVID-19. The first time I visited Jusoor in Lebanon was 2 kids ago, and about the year of 2014. I just started a research project focused on the experience of Syrian and Lebanese teachers working with Syrian students in different schools. I found Jusoor, like so many people did, through Facebook. And during the 2+ years that I lived in Lebanon, I spent a considerable amount of time at each of Jusoor's 3 schools, where I was able to really observe the amazing work accomplished in the classrooms day in and day out. And I've continued to be connected to the teachers, as well as work closely with Suha on a number of different projects. I just want to take a moment or two to set the stage for the conversation we're going to have today with Suha, Michelle, and Randa. As we've all now witnessed in the last 8 months, COVID-19 has really swept the globe. One of the many tragedies of this pandemic is the way it has disrupted learning on a scale that just seems so unimaginable. By the start of April, 194 countries had mandated that schools countrywide be closed, leaving close to 1.6 billion students without a classroom to attend. The pandemic has interrupted the education of over 90% of learners enrolled in formal education, as well as the schooling of countless refugees and other vulnerable children whose numbers are so often excluded from official tallies. We see this clearly in Lebanon, where all the schools, be they public, private, or non-formal, have been closed since March of this year, and the government has yet to indicate if, when, and how schools will be allowed to open their doors again. Across the world, governments and school systems have made a concerted effort to move education programming online or to provide lessons through radio or television when internet connection is poor and mobile devices scarce. While more wealthy nations and communities have been able to adjust at a faster pace, the vast majority of countries have struggled to provide quality distance learning solutions that reach all children in an equitable manner. Even where resources are more abundant, teachers and children have found the abrupt shift from in-person learning to distance education to be full of challenges and many lessons to be learned. In many countries, the focus has been on getting educational programming to students, while teachers have been provided little to no support or training, leaving the most important actors within the system on their own to manage a massive transformation in pedagogy and a reconstruction of what it really means to learn and to be a student. For children who have been forced to flee their homes due to violence or social or political upheaval, the shuttering of schools and educational centers due to COVID-19 is particularly devastating. We already know how incredibly difficult, yet immensely important, it is to ensure children whose lives have been disrupted by crisis are provided access to education. Schools provide not just the possibility for academic growth, but they're also important resources to enable and foster students' social and emotional development. Schools can serve a protective role in the lives of children by enabling safe and welcoming environments and fostering caring and meaningful relationships, in particular with teachers and other adults at the school. This is of particular importance in settings where life often feels so precarious and the future shrouded in fog. For refugees like those living in Lebanon, the sudden disappearance of this support network has happened twice, first due to war and now due to a global pandemic. It has the real potential to negatively impact students' development, as well as the well-being of teachers who, in communities like Jusoor, are immensely invested in their work and in their relationships with students and colleagues. I'm therefore thrilled to have the opportunity to learn more about how the Jusoor team in Lebanon has worked to overcome so many hurdles and to continue to provide education and support to their many students and families. So now I want to bring Suha into the conversation. Thank you, Suha, for being with us. I'm so happy to be able to chat with you today. Suha is going to start us off by giving us an overview of how Jusoor has worked to rework their programming into a distance learning model. I hand the floor over to you now, Suha.
Thank you, Lizzie. Wonderful to be here. And thank you everyone for joining. Some of you know Jusoor and you're friends of Jusoor, so it's good to reconnect. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Suha Tutunji. I'm the academic director of the refugee education program for Jusoor. Here in Lebanon, we have 3 education centers, 1 in Beirut, 2 in the Bekaa Valley. I've been with Jusoor since day 1, since we started the program in 2014. And between the 3 schools, every year, we are able to help around 1,200 Syrian refugees with their education, either to continue their education or to support their education in one way or another, or to help with national exams, or whatever it takes for us to keep them in school. Of course, our program changed along the years. It changed because the students change, the curriculum changes, the situation changes. So we are always working on our curriculum and changing so that we are moving ahead and as much as possible helping the students. Of course, in March 2020, we all know that COVID-19 pandemic came to the world and it surprised us all by spreading so quickly. But because we knew that it was coming to Lebanon just as it had reached all other countries, um, we um, we began to think ahead of time, what are we going to do if we are in total shutdown? What should we do? How are we going to approach our children? So we sat down as a team and we looked at what we had. So we knew that the students do not have access to hardware, laptops, tablets, what have you. They don't have that. And if they do, they are quite old ones and maybe one or two of them. We also knew that the access to internet is also limited. 3G is limited and the data bundle is limited. And so we can't use links and Zoom and Google Teach and all those things that others are using. We also knew the given was that the literacy level of some of parents was not advanced enough so that they would be able to help us with the children, so we could send some work and then they would be able to follow with us with their children. And on top of that, the digital literacy level of the parents is also quite basic. But we knew that every single person, nearly, let me rephrase that, has a smartphone, and they all use WhatsApp. I would like to show you a short video now before I continue. It gives you a brief idea of what we're doing. Sorry.
مرحبا، أنا اسمي محمد رجب، عم نتعلم مدرسة جسور. بعطونا هذه الكتيب اللي نحل فيه النشاطات خلال ينتهي الحجر الصحي.
Thank you, Ariane. I wasn't able to see the video. I don't know, were you able to watch it? I hope so. So as the video showed, we had to change our ways of teaching, and because we know that everyone has WhatsApp, our students have WhatsApp, and we have already, because we already have groups of WhatsApp. The teachers are on WhatsApp, and we communicate with the parents through WhatsApp by sending them some circulars or announcements on WhatsApp, and that's how we keep in touch with them. And so we said, all right, let's use the same model, but instead of the teachers, with the parents, we'll use it with the teachers. And so we formed groups of students with their teachers. And so every teacher had a group of students he or she would communicate with, and they were mostly their students when they were coming to school anyway. So they were familiar with them, and being familiar is very important when you're doing distance learning, so that the students feel comfortable because they know the teacher and they've worked with the teacher for a long time. So we grouped them, and the teachers started sending weekly assignments on their phones. The parents would receive their phones and they would show them to the children. They received the assignment on the phones. The children would work on the assignment, and then they would return them to the teacher. How did we do this? Because it is WhatsApp, the first assignment, well, first, if you want connectivity with them, was not an assignment. We explained to them what they had to do and how to do it, and how much time they should spend before we went into the teaching itself. So what we did was we either sent a voice message to the parents, especially the older children who have books, so they could follow the voice message with the book and do their work, or we sent a short video of the teacher herself teaching the students and then giving them an assignment to do. Or we took a picture of a worksheet that we asked the students to work on. The students would then work on it. Either they would copy it again on a piece of paper, take a picture of it and send it back to the teacher for feedback, or they would do the activity themselves. As you saw in my videos, they were using pebbles and beans and sand and salt and sugar to trace letters and numbers, so that they could also relate to that, and at the same time we were working with their fine motor skills. Or those of the students who did not have pens or paper because they were confined, we asked them to use their phone as a worksheet itself. So they would write the answers on the phone itself with a stylus, take a screenshot of that phone, send it to the teacher. The teacher would then put her comments. If you look at this at the side, you can see the one on the left with the heart and the ticks on it. This is and then the thumbs up. This is a screenshot of one of the teachers who was responding to a student who had done his homework on the phone itself and sent the screenshot to the teacher. The activities that we did were varied. We did not only use one phone, so it was just not only worksheets. We tried as much as possible to use what they have at home, beans, pebbles, what have you. And the curriculum we had to adapt so that the students, the teachers could not cover everything. And because when you're in a classroom situation, it's different. You have your material with you, you have your flashcards, you have all the resources you need to teach. And then this is not the case when you're doing it from a distance. And so what we did, we revisited the curriculum, looked at what were the basic and most necessary skills needed, worked a new plan with a new weekly lesson plan that the teachers had to prepare, and then started on that. But before we started the new material, we only did for around a week or two revision so that the children got familiar with how to use it and they could relate to skills that they had learned before. And then we went into the new material that we taught. We also provided some psychosocial counseling to the parents and the teachers, which my colleague Michelle is going to talk more about and explain how she did it. So I will not talk a lot about that, which was also provided online. Of course, we tried our best, but we all had challenges like anything else. I think you have challenges, and we try to tackle these challenges as much as we can. So one of the challenges, for example, was that some of the students were not always motivated to work, especially at the beginning, they were extremely enthusiastic. But later on, there was a challenge that when they're working from home, they have their siblings, the father wants to use the phone, the other children want to use the phone. So we started receiving messages from the parents. We're going to have, a fight in the house, in the tent, because the children are fighting over the phone, who's going to do what and when. And my husband wants the phone and he doesn't let the children use it. So we had to say, we sent a schedule to the parents saying, fine, every day from 10 till 11:30, this is time specially sacred for the teaching and for learning. So from this time to this time, you do your Arabic. From that time to that time, you do your math. And from X to Y time, you do your English or your art activity or whatever activity you have, so that we could, kind of tackle that problem. The teachers had a problem that also were facing a problem that they did not have enough data or 3G, especially when they were at home. And so we need to thank the charity of the Latter-day Saints, provided us with data bundles for the teachers to use in their classrooms and in their homes, so that they could provide the children with the work. Some students did not have WhatsApp, did not have smartphones. Also, with the help of the charity of the Latter-day Saints, we provided booklets for them, and we gave those to the students to work on, and then they would give them back to us, and we would correct them and respond and give them back to the students. They would come to the centers on a schedule. Of course, not all of them together. We had to keep social distancing. Some of the teachers also were facing some challenges with using the technology. And here, with the help of Zaki, our partners, they sent us some tips, some videos that we shared with the teachers, how to compress the material that they had so that we can use it. Shura also sent us some boxes that we can use offline, which is a box that we can use offline with material inside for the teachers. And these were very, very helpful. We want to thank our partners. EDT continued to do their English classes online as well with our development trust. Our partners as well with the teachers. So these are some of the challenges, and this is how we solve them. Of course, the lessons that we learned, of course, the response rates fluctuated depending on the weeks. For example, during Ramadan, dropped a little bit. After Ramadan, it went up a little bit. The brevet students who were sitting for the national exams at the end of grade 9, we had an 85% of response rate, which is very, very high because they were very enthusiastic and they were old enough to take their own, to take charge of their own learning. But Arabic, for example, there was more interaction with the Arabic classes than with the English, which is understandable because the mother tongue of the students is Arabic. So this is normal. But across the centers, we had around an average of 54% of the students who were responding overall, and which is really a very, very good number, because if you look at the numbers with the MOOC, for example, rate across the countries, it's between 5 to 15%. We were able to move from 30 at one stage to 54% and 85% of the older children. I think this is a very good number. What we hope to do if things go back to normal and children come back to school is to continue this lesson, the WhatsApp, and use it with the students who are out of school and the students and the girls who have dropped out, because sadly we have a high number of girls who get married at an early age and they want to continue. So at least this way they will have a chance to stay in their homes, in their tents, stay with their family, where the boys who go to work can go to work, and in the evening when they come back home, they can continue their education by using WhatsApp. And we hope that this would be a step forward for the future, hopefully. Thank you all, and I'm looking forward to answer any questions if you have any.
That's great. Suha, thank you so much for giving us that overview. I think we're going to try, before I ask a question or two, I have like millions I could ask, but we're going to try to re-show the video.
Yes.
مرحبا، أنا اسمي محمد رجب، عم نتعلم مدرسة جسور، وأعطونا هذه الكتيب لنحل فيه النشاطات خلال ينتهي حجر الصحي.
Great. I hope everyone saw it in that one. I think I could see it, so I'm assuming everyone could. Okay, I'm just gonna ask a couple questions since we're trying to stay on our time goals. You gave us a little bit of a brief overview about thinking about what it means for curriculum to move online. You guys have been now working and thinking about your curriculum and developing the education curriculum for a number of years now. I was wondering how you thought about what stays in, what comes out, and how you made those priorities as you were transitioning to online model.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we based it on last year's lesson plan and assessment that we did last year, and the feedback and the evaluation that we had last year, to see what were the areas that the children needed to work most on. And these are the ones that we kept. For example, if they needed by the end of the year to be able to read a full story, we limited it down to a sentence, so a meaningful sentence, so that at least they would read that sentence, and then when they come back, and if they come back, we can do some sort of revision. So it was based on what we had taught before and based on what the skills, the basic skills that are needed in each level for the next one.
Great. And how have you thought about, you gave us some great numbers that provide a background on engagement and students being engaged with the program, but how have you thought about being able to really evaluate impact and whether students are learning and being able to use this to actually build their skills?
This is very tricky because this is new and there's no research out there yet that shows what has worked and what has not worked. This is really all happening now. And the focus is more on getting the children to learn, keeping them in a school, in an education context, rather than looking at, oh, these are the numbers and this is what we're doing. We need them to stay with us. So what we try to do as much as possible is to keep a tracker of the students to see how many have responded. Some of them, when we thought that they might not have been doing the work themselves, we asked them to take a video of themselves doing the work and sending us to us. So we are learning as we move along. We don't have a real answer yet. This is all new, but we're moving and we're learning and making the changes as we move along.
You said there's about 54%, I think, of students engaged. What do you have an idea of why the other students have dropped off, or have you tried to reach out?
Thanks for the question. Yes, we do. We were wondering what happened. So what we did is we called them. We called the parents who were stopped being engaged, who were stopped with the engagement, to see why. One of the reasons was this one phone in the family. And so we had to put a schedule. If they had two, so we had the child who's in KG would do this time, and the one who's in grade 1 would do that time. We had to actually do the scheduling for them, so they would come back and do the work. Some of them, they lost their numbers. They didn't have numbers, and some of them did not have a phone to start with, and this is why we came up with the packages.
Great. And so that gives us a little bit of information, but what other feedback have you received from parents and students about the program overall?
It's funny. I mean, some of them are funny, like, oh, my mother, one of the children say, oh, my mother wants to learn with me too, and she's really excited. She asked me, what are you learning today? Show me. And because, she was one of the mothers we were doing some literacy sessions at one stage with mothers, so she was one of them. And they feel that it's like life is normal when you don't send them some assignments. The teachers have received messages from the children. Where's the assignment? What are we going to do today? What are we going to color? What kind of crafts are it? Because we also give them some crafts to do at home from items they have home, like bottles or beans that they can use, or paper. So they're really excited, but they do want to come back to school, because we also have had a lot of them saying, when is school going to open? We saw that there are some teachers in school the other day. That's really going to open. They're excited, and we told them that they had to wait. But there has been a lot of excitement from the students and the parents.
Great. It just shows how impressive and important continued outreach and connection is for communities that are no longer in their own homes. So I have many more questions like that to ask, and I know the participants do as well, but I'm gonna shift us to speaking with Michelle, and we can come back, Suha, at the end and maybe continue some of these themes. So hi Michelle, I'm really excited to hear more about the psychosocial support program at Jusoor, and really how it's moved online, which is something I don't think a lot of the distance online programs are thinking about. Just unmute yourself. Sorry, Michelle, which is something I always forget to do.
Sorry, forgot. Hi, Lizzie. Hi, everybody. Nice to be here with you. So I'm Michelle. I'm the counselor here at Jusoor. Been here for almost 4 years now. What I do is I work with the children and the parents and the teachers. For me, it's very important to support the children, obviously directly by having counselling sessions with them, but also very much indirectly through working with the parents and the teachers. So mainly with the caregivers, those who care for children. So I follow this, I do this program called this ICDP program, International Child Development Program, which is essentially a parenting program, but really targeted at all caregivers, all people who care for children. And it works a lot on empathy, for example, and really being able to put yourself in the children's shoes, seeing things from children's perspective. It's also, there's a lot of work on sort of call it personal development, but really reflection and self-observation. I encourage them, for example, they videotape themselves interacting with children, either as teachers in classrooms with their students, or as parents at home, interacting through normal activities or everyday activities with their children. And then they bring these videos to the group, because these are group sessions, usually weekly sessions, and these videos are discussed. And we see, because ICDP is based on certain guidelines, really universal guidelines, and so there's a lot of inner work that happens, and the feedback that I've gotten has been quite positive, you know, from the parents and teachers alike. So this is what I normally do, and obviously this is face-to-face and you know, interacting either in groups or one-on-one. Things have changed since you know, COVID-19, as you said, the immense impact it's had on everybody. So I don't, unfortunately, I guess, I don't have as much interaction with the children, direct interaction with the children at the moment. But what we did is, well, I got onto the groups, the groups that Suha spoke about, you know, with the teachers and the students and the parents. And I did small video clips of myself talking about, I don't know, a topic, something about spending quality time with the children, going through this difficult situation and trying to create memorable moments, to create positive memories for the children, so that when they, you know, when they're a bit older, they'll think, wow, that was the time when we were stuck at home and there was no school, shops were closed, everything was really weird, but we got to spend lots of, you know, we had lots of fun and spent time with mom or mom and dad or whoever, learned to cook, learned to build something. And, you know, so I try to encourage, you know, let's do this, let's change this into something positive that our children can, you know, something positive they can remember. So little tips like that. And then I would ask them, well, what do you think? Is this feasible? Is this something that you feel you could do or would want to do? And would assign a task, for example, for the week. And you can send me your feedback privately or in the group if you'd like. So that was kind of how it went. So this was, yeah.
That's great. Maybe even you can also give us an idea of how, what are some of the major challenges that you are working with basically teachers, caregivers, and students before the pandemic, and how you've really seen things change, shift, or not?
Well, I mean, what changed really is well, a lot of the challenges that Suha spoke about. Again, you know, you know, how accessible, you know, to be able to phones, for example. There's always a problem with the phone connectivity. All that was, you know, problematic. There are some advantages. Some people, I mean, although nothing beats face-to-face interaction, obviously, you know, as a counselor, this is the best way really to be with someone, to listen, to talk, etc. But barring that, the phone is also not such a bad medium. Some people kind of almost prefer the anonymity, almost, you know, the more, so they're just talking to someone and they're letting it out, and, you know, so it has its advantages. Challenges, do you want, I mean, challenges because of the COVID situation also?
Yeah, what are some of the challenges that you've heard from families and
well, you know, money was a big issue. Financial worries, I would say financial despair really for many of them, because all of a sudden, you know, those who had some work had no work anymore, no source of income at all cooped up in a house or in a tent. And no possibility of leaving. I think measures were stricter on the Syrian community, on the refugee community, than the rest of the Lebanese, of the people, you know, living in Lebanon. So that was, you know, very difficult for them. You know, I had this woman, this mother, 3 children, who was telling me her story the other day, and how she and her family survived on bread and water for 17 days. During the lockdown, during confinement, and it was towards the end when people realized, and so neighbors started giving her food and stuff like that. Others, many of them, complained about not being able to pay their rent, not to be able to buy food. Difficult in that sense. Boredom was a big one also, and lots of family rowing, you know, between, you know, couples, and shouting at the children, etc. I mean, things that happened everywhere in the world also. Some of them are very common to, you know, other places.
And as you gave some good examples of ways that you've been using outreach online, how are some of the ways you've seen the parents using sort of this modality that you've opened up, or teachers?
Well, I've had mixed reviews, should we say. Some of them, well, left the group because they said, oh, we don't want to hear any more about coronavirus, although I made a point of not mentioning the word, actually, because I know they might have been bombarded with a lot of information, you know, wash your hands, don't touch your face, etc., all this thing that's been drummed into everybody. So I made a point of not mentioning any of that, and just really talking about well-being and how to improve the immune system, and you know, to become stronger. The best defense against any virus is you know, being stronger oneself. So how do we do that, etc. So I also had some very positive responses, and some of them said, oh yeah, we really like those videos, and we watch them with the kids, and then we try to apply it. And so it's been, I've had both. Some who, as I said, left the group, didn't want to hear about it, didn't give it a chance really, but others were very excited, and which has given me kind of an idea of the way forward. Rather than talk to everybody on the group, on the parent group, just identify those who are really interested, who've shown interest, and then just follow up with them and do an amended ICDP program, let's say, with them, that's online. Of course, this is all a pilot scheme, as Suha said. This is all new, and we're learning as we do it. Yeah, I would say, you know, it's still the beginning, still at the beginning.
And has your focus been mostly on the families, or have you also been working with teachers? Because you mentioned at the start that before
with
COVID.
Teachers, yeah, yes, of course. But that was something I was doing also before COVID. Also in the summer, for example, when I'm not in Lebanon, I also do, you know, online counseling with them, and during COVID as well, I had many conversations with many of the teachers. And yes, that's always a support. I guess they're always happy to be able to talk to somebody. So that's, I guess, it's been helpful. Yeah.
And just to ask one more last question, and then I'm excited to hear from Randa. How are some ways that you see making changes or progressing if we are continued in our lockdown mode?
Well, it depends. Of course, we're all waiting to see what's going to happen, you know, in September. I just wanted to mention one major worry that I noticed across the board, like everybody, is that obviously very worried about the situation in Lebanon and about this country spiraling downwards into war, into chaos, and that is obviously a very, very big issue for all Syrian refugees and all Lebanese and everybody really. I just wanted to mention that. How I see the way forward, like depending on what happens in September, if schools open, even if schools open, I think it would be a good idea to continue these sessions for those who are interested, the parents I'm talking, because as their children are coming to school, hopefully, inshallah, that they're coming to school and they're being supported at school, and parents will get this at home, mothers will get this at home. They can have their cup of coffee or their yerba mate, and they can join a group where they can talk and express things and whatever. So that's kind of my plan. I think I want to use this and continue, because you never know, schools might open and then shut again, and so I think it's a good thing to keep it going.
Grace, thank you so much. That was a really great insight into the work you've been doing. Very glad that you are there to support everyone. So now I want to bring in our last panelist, Randa, who is one of our star teachers at Jusoor. Hi, Randa. How you doing? It's great to have you here.
Hi, everyone. It's my pleasure to be with you. My name is Randa Alkhous. I am Syrian. I've been in Lebanon since 2016. I'm an English teacher. I worked with refugee children in many different organizations. And now I'm working with Jusoor in Jubjanine Center. I've been with Jusoor for 2 years. Actually, in Jusoor, we focus on learning and not teaching. So we depend a lot on the interaction between the students and the teacher. We try our best to make the children work and discover what they are going to learn, and not only receive information. Now, because of the coronavirus, we stopped the school and moved to a new method in learning, which is the distance learning. We made groups for each level, and based on making videos that were first a kind of revision for what we learned in school to identify the point we will start working on with our children. Actually, I try to vary the contents to make the students much more motivated. I use things you can find in each house, such as spoons, forks, pasta, beans, and so on. Things like this make the learning process easier and fun. I record a short video that explains the way they use these materials and send it for the students, and then ask them to do just like I did. Some of them not only imitate the way I did, they also create their own way. And that's it.
Great. So tell me, what do you think are some of the things that you enjoyed about moving to an online model, and what are some of the things that have been really hard, either for yourself or for the students?
Okay, as the enjoying points of distance learning. The first point that students continue their learning and don't cut off. Okay, so they keep in touch with their school, their teacher, and the curriculum. In this way, we will not lose their interest in learning. Another important point is the parents. Actually, they have a very important role. They helped me a lot in teaching their children. We usually depend on the school and only the schools in the learning process. Some families are interested in learning their children and have part in the learning process. In distance learning, educated parents have a big role and helped a lot, as I mentioned. Not only that, some parents are not educated at all, so they started learning with their children, which was very interesting and encouraged me a lot. Now, let me talk about some difficulties. I'll mention not all of the students, as Ms. Suha and Michelle said, not all of the students were involved in the learning process. Some of them don't know how to use the technology. Some others don't have network. So we worked hard on making simple things to use, such as short videos, worksheets, with some explanations to make things easier. Another point is that this types of learning is not accessible 100%. We find it very difficult to assess the students and to choose the suitable kind of assessment. We are not sure if the students depend on themselves in doing the homework or somebody else did it. So we asked to pass this problem. We asked the parents to record a short video for their children while they are doing their homework, or send a voice message for us. Anything just to be sure that the student got the concept and learn it. Okay.
What are some, I know how important it is to have parental support when kids are learning from home. And you've mentioned that some of the parents are learning us alongside your students. Are there other ways that you've been able to engage parents or guide parents to be able to support their students? Sorry, their children.
Sorry, can you repeat?
Yeah, so what are some other approaches that you've used to help parents support their children in learning?
As I told you, I used to make my own videos, to use things from my home, explain the way they should do the activity or the worksheet, and send it for the parents to let their children watch it and do as I did.
So sort of double teaching. You're teaching two people at the same time.
Yeah. Sometimes I use a voice message to explain the activity and to tell the parents what they should do. Other parents asked me about the pronunciation, about how we can spell the words, and I help them.
How have you thought, because usually when you teach a day, you think about a lesson that's 45 minutes long or half an hour long. How have you thought about the fact that now you're teaching in these tiny little snippets? How's that been as a change for you?
It was a very big challenge for me to make the children get the idea in a few minutes, because we cannot do a long video for the children. You know, they don't have network and so on. So I tried to make a short video of the activity, concentrating on the main idea, and send it for them. So it was a very challenge for me. It was to make such a video.
It sounds like it's been a huge shift in work style and how you're working, and now you were talking at the beginning of the importance of interacting with your students, and now you're home and not with the students in the classroom. How do you keep yourself motivated in the middle of all of this?
The response of the children, the response of the parents, how the parents would like to learn with their children. They helped me a lot. We reached a stage that is very high in education. So this motivated me a lot. Also sending the videos for the children while they are making the homework encouraged me a lot, and was very useful for me.
Just to get an idea, Randa, how many different classes do you teach? Do you just teach one grade, or do you have multiple grades you're teaching?
Actually, I teach two levels, the KG and level 1. So I have to work on both of them and make different videos for each level.
How do you, given that now you're completely accessible to your students on WhatsApp, how do you maintain a distance between work and home, since now work has moved into your home?
Okay. First, I could realize my children and watch them, watch their reaction, if they got the idea or not. You know, we depend on the body language and the facial expressions. In this stage, we cannot watch our children. We cannot know if they got the idea or not. It was very difficult. And so, as I told you, I used the video method to make sure that they got the idea. Another thing was the resources. You know, at home we don't have resources like school. Each year in school we have about a month to prepare ourselves for the year. We make sure that all of our resources are ready. So it was very difficult here at home because we don't have worksheets. So I had to do them by myself using simple materials.
I know that the Jusoor teachers are quite collaborative, and you share ideas and you share resources. How has that kept going in this new reality?
We used to make a meeting every week to share the ideas, to reflect on our work, to give ideas for each other. This worked, this didn't work, and so on. So we have a Zoom meeting each week to share the ideas with each other.
And out of curiosity, because now you're working at home, how do you maintain just work hours instead of working all day with lots of back and forth with students? Are you able to say, I work, 6 hours a day, no more, or is it always working?
I have definite hours to work in. I like to work in the morning hours as I used to do in school. So I tried to keep this routine.
Great, good for you. One last question, and then I want to sort of bring everybody back together. What type of supports do you think would be more helpful, or trainings that you think could be helpful for you to be able to support you in your work?
Although we did some trainings before we started working on the distance learning, but we still need to learn more techniques and the correct division we could follow to reach the information correctly, and don't send, for example, videos that are nonsense or like this. Also, we need to work on the technology, the computer, and yeah, in technology, every day we've got something new, so we need to learn about them more and more.
Great, thank you so much, Randa. It's really good to hear a really deep insight into what teaching is looking like right now.
Thank you so much.
I want to just take a couple minutes to bring the three of you guys back together and ask a couple of general questions, and then field some of the really great questions we've been having from the people that have joined us. So one question I wanted to hear from the three of you, and maybe we can go, we'll go one question in Suha, Michelle, Randa order, and then Randa, Michelle, Suha. Michelle, I put you in the middle each time. So one thing I'm interested in is, as you've gone from in-person to an online model, what have been your greatest priorities? Like, what is most important to you that is maintained within this online model, or that you do in the online model, or your biggest goals?
The biggest goal is to keep the children learning, keep them learning, keep them interested in education, interested in schools, because if they are cut out of school for a long time, they might lose their interest and then not come back to school, especially the girls. So the studies have shown that after things like that, the girls are most likely not to come back to school. Boys are more likely to go back to school. And so we want to focus on all of them, boys and girls, equally, maybe goes a little bit more nowadays, so that they continue this education, keep the flow going, and hopefully when schools come back, they would return to school. This is a priority. We would also like to add some more activities, not only things that have to do with their, like for example, Right to Play. We're working with them on training some music, activities with music. They're going to do some training for us, and they've already started actually with 2 teachers in Beirut. So that we're working with them hopefully on that to add more to our program and enrich it with more activities. The Education Development Trust, we're doing the thing for the teacher learning circles, where the teachers with communities get together and they, like Randa was talking about, how they would meet and discuss things. We are hoping that they will also do a short training on how to continue this online if we don't go back to school.
Great. Thanks, Suha. What about you, Michelle? What are some of your biggest goals for this model? And make sure you unmute. Perfect.
Sorry, I always do that.
Okay.
Well, it's a bit also like Suha said, in the sense that keep it going, really keep the connection, because it's very easy. Oh, it's just a phone thing, and then well, you know, and won't bother today. And so I think maintaining contact is very important, and keeping it short and sweet, not too much bombarding them with too much material, because then that just puts everybody off, because it is challenging as it is. And so yeah, but I think continuity, very, very, very important.
What do you think, Randa? What have been some of your biggest goals as you've moved to this new teaching model?
As they said, to keep the children learning, and not only the children, to make myself learning more and more about the techniques, about the methods, about the ways that I could use if in the future we continued on distance learning.
Great. And Randa gave us a little bit of an idea about some of the different support needed, but I was wondering if you could both, the three of you could talk about more broadly, and maybe Randa, you can talk about what broader supports are needed for teachers or staff to continue this model, whether now or even in the future when you start to use it, if you want to try to integrate it with in-person learning.
As I told you, we need to learn more about the steps that we can follow to make the lesson or the videos or whatever success. And if we've got another way, another interesting way that grab the children, much more children to the learning process.
What do you think, Michelle? What are some different types of supports that might be useful either for yourself or other type of support that you might be able to outreach to parents and to children? And don't forget to unmute.
It has to be, sorry, it has to be online, right? I mean, you're talking about online. This is online. I think having, for me, I mean, as the counselor, just having more individual, counseling sessions, I think are very, very useful, as well as group sessions. I'm a bit, I'm just, I'm just wondering. And having, I don't know how we can make it easier for the parents also to engage, to connect more. As we said before, just keep doing it, and just for them to know that I'm available, and sending messages that I'm here if you need to talk, when you need to talk, and keeping that flow going, I think is essential. Can be challenging, but I think it's very, very important.
Yeah.
And also knowing, I mean, as someone who's in the psychosocial field, obviously they have other problems besides, feeling emotionally not well, etc. They've got their basic needs aren't met, and that is a huge issue. And we know that is a huge problem. But whatever help one can offer, whatever support they can get, is perhaps welcome, even if it's not exactly what they would love to have. Lots of money, some money, and a job, and better prospects for the future, and and that's difficult. But I've often been told that just talking about it, and just letting it out, and letting out the anger and the frustration and everything else that comes with it, even though it doesn't solve the problem, at least we let off some steam, and that seems to help. So we carry on.
That's great, thanks. And Suha, can I roll to you?
Yes, sure. I can divide them into three supports: the parents, teachers, and students. So the support for the parents would be lovely if we can do some training with the parents on using WhatsApp itself, so that they can help their children how to use it as a tool for education. That would be wonderful if we can devise some sort of mechanism. I don't know if our friends from that you can maybe help out with that, I don't know, or from the London University College also, they're good at that. For the teachers, of course, more training is needed on all levels, and finance, we need to be financed enough so that we can buy material that we need, so we can support the teachers with the training or with whatever needs they have. And then, of course, support for the students, so that those who do not have WhatsApp, either more booklets or more hybrid learning, a bit of booklets, a book of maybe one-on-one when they can with distant learning, and the students with maybe bundles so that they can continue using their WhatsApp data to continue learning. I would say maybe these would be the most essential.
Great. I think we have a bunch of questions from the participants, so I might turn to ask you guys those. I will pose them to the three of you, and anyone can jump in if you feel you have an answer, and if not, if no one jumps in, then I'll prod one of you to give me an answer. So one of the questions that came was a little bit more about logistics of learning, and Suha, you touched on this a little bit, but I think it would be helpful to talk a little bit more in detail about some of the logistics you've had to manage. The question was, what did you do when families have more than one learner, and maybe two kids that are of the same age, or two kids that are different age and that have lessons at the same time, or feeling like they need to be using the materials or the phone at the same time?
Yes, thank you for the question. Whoever asked it, thank you. I think Jenny, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, well, the thing is that this was a change at the beginning, as we were explaining. But with the schedule that we have given the parents, it worked out. If they had two, then we would tell them, for example, Ru'a, your daughter Ru'a will study from 9 till 10, and your son Ahmed from 11 till 12. Some of the activities, especially the ones that are not based on academics, like drawings or songs or what have you, they would do together. They would work on them together. Sometimes the mothers, as I said, will work with the mothers. So this is how we try to manage these logistics.
Randa, have you seen any challenges with, like maybe for your first graders, with competition over access to the telephone?
You mean for me or for the students?
For the students, where the students might be...
Some of them don't know how to use the video, or how to play it, how to do the homework, how to record how the child is doing the homework. Some of them don't know to take a screenshot. It was easier to send a photo for them to do it on the mobile and resend it for me. So I tried my best to send voice messages for them to explain what they should do step by step.
And just one question that I was interested in, Randa or Suha, do you have an idea of how much time on average a student is engaging in learning on a daily or a weekly basis?
Between an hour and 10 minutes, depending on the age of the group and the assignment. But I know for the teachers it takes longer, and for me it takes longer, because the teachers send the material to me. I have to look at it, check it, and then make any changes that have to be made, send it back to the teachers make the changes and send it back to me. So we make sure that we're on the right track. But as we moved along, this has become much better, and very little changes are now needed. They're slowly getting the hang of it. But approximately, I would say an hour and 15 minutes per child a day.
Great. I had a question here from Brett, who said, do you feel like you're learning principles about distance learning that could be applied to children who don't have access to school? So not particularly about COVID-19, but as we're always trying to reach what seems to be like the unreachable children, how has your work now might inform some of your approaches going forward?
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Brett, for that question. This is why we hope that if students come back to school, we will be able to continue WhatsApp with students who do not come back to school for one reason or another. And maybe with help of other partners, we can reach out now, even when they don't come to school, students who are not in school, and devise something especially for them, because it has to be a different program. They cannot just join immediately or directly into whatever cohort is working. They need to have a separate form and design. But we are looking into that, and this is of great interest to us, yes. Especially girls, I mean, with this gender inequality, especially girls, we would really love to expand this and work with the girls who have had to drop out of school to get married. And this way, they can really learn from home with the WhatsApp.
That's great. Did Randa, did you want to add anything to?
I think it was a very useful way to contact with the families, with the parents, and with the children. It's a very good way to teach the children who are not able to come to school, and also to continue in this way with the children who come to school, to make the parents learn with them, or teach or help them in learning.
Great. And Michelle, just maybe switching that question a little bit to get some insight for you. Given that you're trying out this new online model, do you think it might be something that you would use going forward for children that might be perpetually out of school, or are there ways you think you might use this as a different support for students that might be getting lost from the system?
Yeah, I think later on start to target the children directly. You know, we're just going into the family now, you know, with the children and their parents, and later on, perhaps for those who don't come to school, exactly, you know, create this opportunity where they can talk to me, and we'll have some fun activity, and then just break the ice, and then see how they respond. But as I said, it's new territory, and then you know, we'll learn as we go along. But certainly, we don't want, you know, as you said, we don't want to leave the children left out, those who can't come to school for whatever reason after COVID, if COVID situation is resolved. So that everybody gets a chance as much as possible. So in every way, academic and psychosocial and everything else. So yeah.
Great, thanks. I have a question. I don't think that's me. I have a question here more about the training. The question was from Caitlin. It said that Suha mentioned providing training to teachers who did not have high digital confidence, and she wanted more specifics about how that was structured and the feedback, and then maybe Randa, you can jump in and talk about how it felt like to be trained from afar, and what worked and what didn't work.
Part of the training we did before we had to isolate ourselves, confine ourselves. So they were done by some of the teachers who already are quite, technical savvy, if I can say that. So they know the ins and outs, and so they ran these workshops for the teachers themselves. They ran them. And some of them we did distance learning. For example, Vaki sent us, shared with the teachers, and then what happens is together in a group, not individually, with also one of us, the teachers as well, not only us as the administration, but the other teachers who were good at technology, and they went through them and they did the training. But some of them still need quite a lot of work, and I think maybe with those teachers they have to do it one-on-one. Someone has to sit with them and go and guide them, because these are the teachers who had to do their work with their colleagues. They couldn't do it alone, which is fine. It's okay. They learn, which is great. But maybe we should also target that cohort with more specific training than others. I hope I answered the question. I don't know whether I answered the question, but
I think you did pretty good. Randa, do you want to talk a little bit about what the experience was? I know you gave us some ideas of things that could be done better, but maybe just even thinking about what was it like to even begin the discussions of moving the education online, and what helped in particular in the training.
As Suha said, we did some trainings before we started this stage, I mean the distance learning. And also I used the internet to search for things, and I tried my best to Google everything I want to teach. I tried my best to watch videos and things like this. It helped me a lot, but I still need much more. I still need to learn more about the technology to be faster in using it. I know how to use it, but I still a little bit slow, and it takes maybe some time. So I need to be faster.
You're muted, Elizabeth. Sorry.
See, Michelle, I do it too. Randa, you speak amazing English, and obviously have Arabic as your first language. How much because you've been able to Google and look for things online, how important is your English skills for that? And do you think whether teachers who don't speak English as well as you do, whether that's been an issue for them or not?
Sorry, but can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. You speak very good English,
yeah.
So you can use both English and Arabic to look for resources online. How important do you think that English skill is? And do you think teachers who don't speak English, has that been a challenge?
It's a little bit a challenge, but they can pass through it. And we all in Jusoor, we all the teachers always make English lessons to improve their English. We all work in how to improve our language. So I think all the teachers can speak a good language.
And Suha, do you have a sensation of whether or not being able to navigate in English has impacted some of the ways that teachers have felt they could find support?
It has impacted, yes, with some of the teachers whose levels of English is not on par with the level of technology English. And this is where our partners, Education Development Trust, come in. And this is why they continued doing the English classes online with the teachers even after COVID. But having said this, we can find now more resources in Arabic, especially when it comes to teaching Arabic in particular, maybe not math and science, but teaching Arabic in particular, songs, videos in Arabic that can be used. So we are beginning to have more and more of that Arabic resources available for the teachers, which is something good. And maybe now with this online learning, with everyone doing it, we will even have more. People will be encouraged to work more on that. But it has been a hindrance to a certain degree, yes. I mean, the thing about online learning is it really showed the inequality, inequity in education. Students who cannot afford to have laptops or means or even 3G are being left out. So it's really brought up many questions about equity in education, quality of education, and how can we really bring it to everyone in a way that they are all learning and quality education on top of that. So many questions have come up because of COVID.
Any solutions?
Well, there's always a silver lining. We should always hope that there is a solution, that the world is going to become a better place, that the children have a better future. Someone was asked about aspirations, that they change their aspirations. Yes, I think Janine asked that question. Some of the older children have already dropped out and are working because their parents, because of the economic situation, that they have to work to support their parents. I mean, I understand that. And so now they say, like, we're never going to get an education, or I wanted to become a car mechanic, I have to go to vocational school, now I have to work. And with WhatsApp learning, maybe we can still reach these children. Maybe they can have a future, a better future later on. Hopefully, we hope that, and this is what we aspire, and this is our mission. But there is always hope.
Thanks, Suha. Michelle, there was a question in here that I thought I think is an important one that it was very specific.
Can I just say something first? Yes. Sorry, I just wanted to comment on the question you asked, Randa, and Suha answered, that there's also, of course, some of them have difficulties because they don't have the level of English required, but the good thing, and Randa, correct me if I'm wrong, but our teachers at Jusoor work together. So those who find some information will share it with others. Is that right, Randa? Yeah. Right, so there's it's very, they cooperate. Yeah. So I think that helps. So
yeah, of course, I mentioned it when I talked about the Zoom sessions we did every week. So we share our idea, our information, we reflect on ourselves, we do all these things.
Sorry, I interrupted you, Liz.
No, it was great. That's great. There's just a question I think is that someone had asked about whether or not parents had clearly told you that they needed food or work, and that I think the question was, how did you respond? And I want to just broaden the question of not only did you maybe respond to when a specific need was communicated, but how have you managed to deal with like very heavy, challenging situations that seem to often at least be laid at your feet because you're the one listening?
Yes, and some situations are very, very challenging, of course. And these are questions that are very, very difficult to answer, I have to say. It's tough. I mean, I can't, I have to maintain my equilibrium, obviously, my balance, because otherwise if I sink with them, then I'm no good to anybody. Having said that, we do try to find, I mean, Suha and I, we try to help in some ways, you know, find someone who can help, financially, I mean, try to encourage them in some way to become, well, find avenues they can explore to become autonomous, to start some little business of making bread or making manouche and stuff like that. We've got someone where we're trying to help now, Suha. We try our best, Lizzie, that's all. We can't help everybody, and I know I can't help everybody, nobody can, and we need to accept that, but we do the best we can to help those that, you know, and we try to involve other people who can help financially in other ways, and yeah, but easy? No, it isn't, that's for sure.
How do you manage your own response to what you can and cannot change?
Well, I'm aware of the limitations. I think knowing that, you know, there are certain limitations and this is what I can do, and I'm very clear about what I can do and what I can't do. Yeah, I try to stay grounded. That's important. I take care of myself also emotionally and as much as possible and physically, so that I can be of help. So that also, I mean, yeah, I think they start. I mean, they feel that we are here. Jusoor is here for them really as much as possible, and they can see it. They can see it, and we do try, you know. And sometimes they do. There is help that comes forward, and they get, you know, extra food and extra, you know, hamper, you know, with all sorts of things in the hampers. And so it comes when it comes, and it's wonderful. And we help as much as we can individually, and we put them in touch with other people. And yeah, I can't, you know, I can't say more really. I wish I could wave a magic wand and just, you know, but.
Can I add to what Michelle said, that we do what we can, and our donors also and our friends have helped. For example, we were able to distribute hampers with food and some cleaning material to all of our students. 3 times we were able to do it, thanks to many donors, like the Charity of the Latter-day Saints, Shell Hoop Group, and others. So they were very much accepted with warm and open hands, because it's much needed. But as Misha said, we can't help them all. We try. So, for example, this mother, we're now looking. Someone's going to donate an oven so that she can start making bread and selling bread, and we try to help as much as we can.
Great, which is always impressive, all the many ways that you are solving problems rapidly. Randa, I wanted to ask you, because I know that the student-teacher relationship is really important in Jusoor, and that you all know your students so well, and all of their family members, and you know a lot about them. How have you seen that relationship shift? Have you been able to maintain it in some way? Has it been easier or more difficult?
At the beginning, because it was a new stage and we lose the interaction between each other, it was a little bit difficult, and the children also missed us a lot. And when they see a video or hear our voice message, they were very happy. The relation with the family became stronger. I have a good relation with all of the mothers and fathers of the children now, and also the relation between the father and mother and their children becomes stronger. Some children try to teach their family, we say it in this way, and so on. So they have this good relationship.
Great. I want to ask you guys just maybe one more question before I turn it back over to Grace to wrap us up. What are some of the things you would suggest to other organizations or other educators looking to use distance learning models to support their students? What are some things that you would say were very important that needed to be thought about during, before, after the creation of the program? What messages of knowledge do you have for the rest of us who are just watching in awe as you swiftly move to an online model of all these very difficult programs?
Well, who should start? Should I answer that first? Or yeah, we'll tell them, don't give up. Keep on trying. There's always a way around finding solutions to educating the children, because this is where they should be. They should be in schools, and schools should remain schools, as I always say. WhatsApp is one way. Maybe they can have other ways that they can share with us if they can, think of other ways. But never to give up. There's always a way that we can reach to the children and keep them in schools in some form or another of school.
Great, thank you, Suha.
As Suha said, to keep on learning online, and also not to take it easy, to just send a video. We should prepare, and they should prepare more for this video, because it's very short. It needs more work and more preparation and specific resources to use for it.
Yes, Michelle.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I've got it. I'm unmuted, right? I've got it right this time. I think learning to be concise, to get the message across in very few words, and which is an art, which I also had to learn. How am I going to get this in 2 minutes, in a two-minute clip? How am I going to get this across? I think that's important, to generate questions and have them do the work, a lot of work, but just through one little topic or theme that gets them working, and that needs to be as refined as much as possible. And I think that's probably
great. Thank you guys so much. I've learned a lot, and it's been really wonderful to hear about all of your experiences. I really appreciate you sharing them with all of us, and for everyone who joined us today. I'm going to hand it over to Grace, who will wrap us up.
Thank you very much, Lizzie. I think it's going to be very hard to follow this and to summarize and close, but I do think we would all agree this has been quite the whirlwind ride these last couple of months, and especially for the team on the ground with the Refugee Education Programme, who have redesigned the delivery of education to reach very vulnerable children almost overnight with very, very few and limited resources. I think we can agree that we've had some challenges along the way, and our program still isn't perfect. We're daily reiterating what we're doing, how we're doing it, the different methodologies, trying to patch gaps when we see there's a challenge that there's not food getting to the camps. We're organizing hamper deliveries when we see that there's not Wi-Fi access. We're delivering books and programs and other materials. So we're really trying to ensure that we do reach every child with a quality education during this difficult period. I think the positives are some of the opportunities that have come through this, which were discussed, and which in fact may not have been possible even before the pandemic. We've been thinking about online education for a while now, but I really think that it was the push which got us to start delivering in innovative ways, but also it kind of pushed the parents and the children to start thinking about how they can find new ways of learning. So that's maybe one of the advantages that this very difficult pandemic period has brought about. I'd like to say a huge thank you, firstly, to Dr. Elizabeth. You've already done so much to support Jusoor. You are a fabulous moderator, and thank you so much for coming and taking the time to have a chat with us, and the excellent questions. A huge thank you as well to each of the panelists for sharing your experience. And I think just in general, the whole team in Lebanon, I am astounded at the speed that you guys were able to kind of really change the way that we were delivering education. Just really incredible. And I think it showed a lot of public schools globally that we could do it first, and we could do it I wouldn't want to say better necessarily, but definitely quickly and with limited resources. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to Ariane. She's our head of partnerships at Jusoor, and independently almost pulled this entire webinar together. So huge thank you, Ariane. Also to obviously all of, she's waving there, to all of our partners and friends who have supported us through this very difficult period, and especially to the donors. We've managed to mention a couple of them, especially the Shalhoub group and the Church of the Latter-day Saints have been so supportive, but also hundreds of individual donors who have showed up and pledged their support, and we're so sincerely grateful to you. And lastly, obviously, to the panelists, to the participants for asking your questions, getting involved, turning up today. Please feel free to email us, info@jusoorsyria.com, if you have any questions. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more updates, and watch this space. We might even have an extra webinar or two. So thank you, everybody, and have a lovely evening, morning, day, wherever you are.
Bye, thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.